All right, we got a 1v1 Mastercast here today. Felkon is squaring off against Optimus Pine. And we're going to take a look at these two armies here real quick before we get started with our battle. So Felkon will be starting as the Ravenous Vermintide, as the Skaven themselves, while Optimus Pine will be playing as the Beastmen. So let's take a look at this Skaven army. And it is a very different Skaven army. For one, Felkon went with Queek Headtaker, which is not a very competitive pick compared to, say, Ikit Claw or even Lord Skrulk. But the nice thing about this army is that he went very thematic. He went with a very heavy Storm Vermin presence. And as a kind of general rule when it comes to the Skaven, you typically go with a much wider army, using a lot of layers to kind of insulate your army against, say, your artillery pieces that are in the very back, or using these layers to absorb shock so you can get more opportunistic charges or use your Clan Scryer weapon team. In this case, Lord Felkon, Felkon went with a much different army with Queek. Using all these heavily armored storm vermin kind of catches your opponent typically on their heel. That when you're the Beastman, you'll typically be going as wide as the Skaven, and in many cases you don't bring a lot of, say, Bestigors or things that would do a lot of damage to the storm vermin. So when you look at the storm vermin as a whole, they have a nice good 90 armor. They have a really good melee defense at 44, good melee attack at 36. You know, they're a very great all-around unit. And against a lot of the chaff infantry that we're going to be seeing with Optimus Pine's Vanguard army, this is going to go very well against these gore herds. Now, in addition to that, we've got some of the Council Guard, which is the Regiment of Renown, Storm Vermin with halberds. Greatest thing about these guys is they're unbreakable. Now, we know Skaven to be a very low leadership army. They even have a mechanic around how low leadership they have with their strength in numbers, which allows them to increase their leadership and speed and the reduction of, leadership and melee defense at the reduction of their speed. Also, they have Guardian. This is unique to the Council Guard, which will infer a 18% physical resistance to any hero or lord in the aura around them. You want to really be keeping them with the two heroes and lords that we have here today, including, of course, Queek Headtaker. Now, Queek Headtaker, of course, has Stand Your Ground. He has his trophy heads, which reduces the melee defense and melee attack of any target he chooses to attack. And Dwarf Gouger, that's this little pick right here. There we go. This will give him a significant bonus to his AP and melee attack, as well as Stand Your Ground, which gives him a nice good buff to his melee defense as he deals with some of the more heavier shock style units of, say, Minotaurs, anything on a chariot that you would see with the Beastmen. Now, in addition to, we also have Verminous Valor, which is the ability to basically explode, sending everything in the distance around him up into the air if they are on foot, and giving him a nice good burst to his speed and also to his leadership. Now, for the Warlock Engineer, we see the typical kind of kit that we always see with a Warlock Engineer, especially lately. Death Frenzy has become such a huge staple of the lore of Ruin. In addition to that, I mean, you always need that Warp Lightning. It does so much damage for, what, 5 Winds of Magic? It's just so nice. And the most recent patch has really updated its graphics, so it does even more damage. As far, I think the attack animation does 2 bolts down now rather than just the 1. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. But you also get the nice Mortis effect of the Warpstone armor. So basically, you're going to keep these two together the entire fight. You're going to see Warpstone armor taking things down as Queek Headtaker tries to jump on things. Felkon kind of told me that the best way to look at Queek Headtaker is an assassin in the Legendary Lord category, which is a really kind of cool, flavorful way of looking at him. He always has kind of been this lord that was used exclusively by Clan Moors to really knock out a really kind of heavy, hard-hitting opponent with the use of all of his Storm Vermin. So he, again, went very thematic here. In addition to the Storm Vermin front line, we also see 2 units of Doomflayers on both sides and 2 units of Plague Monks on both sides. Plague Monks will work very well here with their great anti-infantry capabilities. Not a lot of things will threaten them as quickly as they can in other armies, such as any kind of range play. Really, they're only going to have to worry about Ungor Raiders, Centaurs with throwing axes / spears, and also Cygors, but you'll see in this army that's not going to be a huge issue. Also, Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers. Now, these guys, they don't have any particular specific use against the Beastmen. They're just a very good, cost-effective, strong little pack of rats, so why not bring them, huh? They look really cool, too. In addition to that, the backline is filled mainly with Clan Rats spears, and we see a unit of Warpfire Thrower weapon team here. Now, the nice thing about these is they do have Discourage, or I'm sorry, they have Burnt with their weapons themselves, so we'll be hitting pretty hard into the leadership of the low leadership army that is the Beastmen. Now let's go over our Beastman foe here and take a look at what he has brought. Optimus Prime has really done a really cool Vanguard engagement here. You can see Ungors across the Gors and Ungors across the very front here with there's the Ungor herds I was talking about. And then the very back, he's got some units of Razor Gore herds and some Chaos Warhounds with poison. Now, I want to talk about these Razor Gores for just a little bit. The fabled Baconators, as Turn would say. Now, these guys have really great AP. In the past, they also had anti-infantry. They now also have Rampage, which is a kind of a crippling mechanic nowadays. But in Warhammer 1, they made up the backbone of a lot of Beastmen armies. Nowadays, they really hold their own when it comes to things like Doomflayers. They have a lot of mass, they have a good charge bonus of 46, and they bring a lot of AP to the table, especially at 52 weapon strength. These things are going to be in the meta for Beastmen trying to take down Skaven, especially because the Doomflayers are so prevalent and so strong. They have a very small hitbox. There's only 3 of them. They can wheel in and out of combat quite easily. Razor Gores can really lock them down and do quite a bit of damage to them. And they're really the hardest counter to the Doomflayer in the Beastmen army. In addition to that, we get a mirror of the same thing over here, another Razor Gore herd, another Chaos Warhound with poison, and then of course the Great Shaman of Beasts with Flock of Doom and Transformation of Cadon. In addition to that, we also have the Jagged Dagger for some increased Winds of Magic recovery. Oh, and also Weisson's Wild Form I saw there. Now in the very back, more of this kind of shifty vanguarding. We see more Gore herds, and the Blackhorn Ravagers, which are the Regiment Renowned Gore herds here. Now, we also see some Ungor Raiders. Now, pay close attention to these guys. You have 90 of these guys in one unit. They're very cost effective, and they're going to do a lot of damage to Skaven, mainly because of the way that the Skaven don't have a lot of armor or don't have a lot of missile resistance if they don't bring their shields. Of course, Stormvermin do have shields, but the sheer volume of fire you can get out with these guys is always very impressive. They always do a massive amount of damage for the 325, I think it is, points for these guys. Now, for our Lord choice, we do have Khazrak One-Eye, and he is going to be on his Razor Gore chariot as well. He's going to have Scourge, he's going to have Apocalyptic Visions, Deadly Onslaught, which is going to be really good on the charge here for him, and lastly, the Dark Mail, which will give him a nice good buff to his magic resistance and to his armor. Now, one thing to mention here about Queek Headtaker is he's typically going to be very good against a Beastman army if they bring Malagar the Dark Omen, or Morkur Shadowgrave, because Queek Headtaker is very good against Footlords. Typically, you don't see Khazrak very often, so bringing Khazrak in this situation, I think, was kind of an off-meta pick, and it's not going to work, and to the advantage of Queek's speed for Felkon. But this is a very fun match here, guys. I'm excited to show this one off to you, so let's get started here by just going ahead and pressing the play button. And already we're going to get our first charge here. Let's go right into that slow motion. Get a good look at those Doomflayers as they rip through some Gore herds right there. Man, those things are just so strong. We're going to see that Warp Block Engineer. We're going to see Queek Headtaker jump into the fray here as the Council Guard goes to support them. The Albino Guard of the Council of 13 themselves. You can see just horns and hooves and rat tails just all aflutter up in this piece. So already things are getting off to a really good start for the Skaven. You can see that this frontline engagement, I'm sure Optimus Prime didn't expect this level of storm vermin. This is going to go very well for those for these little rat hordes here. I didn't say rat whores. On the leftmost flank, we can see that we're pushing real heavily with these Gore herds into the Clanrat Spears, getting a good surround onto these Plague Monks. One thing I do want to point out about the Ungors is that they were probably going to be used to wrap up any kind of Hell Pit Abomination play. They're such a dense unit of 120 that you can use them to kind of lock that thing into combat for a little bit. It is AP and anti-large, so it's going to take a long time to kind of deal with an Ungor herd because it's just so much chaff to deal with. So that's probably why he brought the Ungor herd, in my opinion, but clearly no Hell Pit Abomination to be seen here today. Unfortunately here, the Warpfire Throwers don't have a good firing line on anything. Everything's kind of blocked a little bit here by not only their own troops, but there's this slight incline here, right? So they can't shoot up over it. They have to have clear line of sight. So anytime you bring a weapons team, you have to be very careful about their line of sight issues. You want to make sure you're getting a really good engagement on them. Nice Razor Gore charge here, right into that Doomflayer unit. We were talking about how it's going to be a really good heavy counter to them. Getting right into there, they're going to be poisoned by those Warhounds as well, so it's going to take a lot to get them out of that engagement quickly. Flock of Doom kicking off right in that center portion here. Now, to the Skaven hordes, this would typically do a lot of damage, especially to these clan rats with spears. You can see Kazrak has already jumped into an unbraced unit of clan rat spears, which is turning it back and fighting back onto him. But for the most part, we're dealing with storm vermin, so Flock of Doom won't be as beneficial as it would be for just normal clan rats. And the rest of the Skaven hordes are kind of connecting with that backline. They've already engaged and dealt very well with the first Vanguard deployment. We're getting a charge in here from the transformation of Cat on. The Manticore is dropping down right onto the Warlock Engineer. Warlock Engineer, be mindful, guys, it doesn't have the most, tanky of melee stats. It's only got 45 armor, has a good 32 melee defense, but it's really got a good AP at 280 weapon strength. For a hero choice, the big thing here is the Mortis effect of the Warpstone armor. This is supposed to go in conjunction with Quick Headtaker to help him really knock things out. So this is kind of a risky engagement, as that Manticore can rip things up quite quickly. Let's get a good surveillance of the battlefield here. You can see Felkon has established a really good defensive ring with all of his Skaven on this kind of nice little pocket here. Optimus Pine has gotten a real good engagement on the left side here, really putting a lot of pressure onto these Plague Monks, onto these Clan Rat Spears. I believe the unit of Doomflayers that was over here has pushed over to the right side. Yeah, there's one right there. I can't find the other one. Yeah, both are right here. And Ungor Raiders are being used to great effect. They're firing directly into the Council Guard, which are a high-value unit, but there's no missile defense on these things, guys, so it's going to get a lot more return for him, even though they do have a good substantial 90 armor. These, of course, Clan Rat Spears would probably be a better target, but getting any kind of damage you can on a hard unit that is unbreakable is going to be as beneficial as you possibly need. As we see things kind of progressing here, the Bray Shaman of Beast is getting bogged down by some storm vermin over here. You've got the Warlock Engineer, you've got Quick Headtaker himself jumping in. Trophy Heads has been popped. He's going to be hit more often now with that melee defense debuff. And he's just getting his health chunked down. Look at that. Huge swaths of damage kicking in. Quick Headtaker has Verminous Valor popped. He's got Dwarf Gouger popped. And the Bray Shaman is just melting under the conjoined fighting of these two. Kazrak One Eye coming into the left flank over here to reinforce and really kind of help make this whole entire portion collapse. The Warlock Engineer is still dealing with aggression from that Feral Manticore, and you can see right here that the Bray Shaman has fallen by the combined effort of the hero and Lord choice options. Now, on the very far back flank, the Ungor Raiders are trying to escape from the pressure of the Clan Rat Spears and the Doomflayers. You've got one unit that is still in pretty good health, and the other unit of Doomflayers is somewhere around here over the rainbow. I actually, oh, there they are. I was like, I know they're somewhere around here. And the Doomflayers have been just kind of skirting back and forth between the flanks, doing whatever they can to kind of mitigate as much of the charging from these Razor Gores. They're doing a lot of damage to Storm Vermin. They're doing a lot of damage to things and kind of keeping stuff off keel a bit, which is really good. And you can see that Felkon's getting a chance to kind of consolidate his Storm Vermin here to wrap up on some more Ungors and Gores on the left and right flanks. Kazrak is caught into a little bit of an engagement with Quick Headtaker, kind of jumping in and out of this combat, using apocalyptic visions as well to keep his melee attack high and getting a lot of really good value out of that. Now, really this is looking very strong for the Skaven. They've dealt with a lot of the infantry of the Beastmen, but the Beastmen in this engagement, their bulk of their fighting ability is not in their infantry. It's mainly in all their Razor Gores, it's in their chariot play, so Optimus Pine still has quite a lot of tools at his disposal. He's using his Doomflayers to try and keep a lot of pressure onto Kazrak. Kazrak is popping Deadly Onslaught very opportunistically to get very good charges into this little duo here of the Warlock and the Quick Headtaker. Get as much damage in. Got a Warp Lightning kicking off here. Just missing, and Optimus Pine pushes his Gore Herds right out of range of that. I wasn't able to catch it, but there was some good Warp Lightning over here during the center thicket of battle. They did quite a bit of damage to the concentrated units of Gore Herds. Unfortunately, I didn't catch that very well. The Plague Monks and Storm Vermin, though, just ravaging over these Gore Herds. And every time that Kazrak gets close, Felkon does a really good job of using both these two to put a lot of pressure on him and kind of come right back at him. So they're not afraid of all the conflict and damage those chariots can do to them. So it's a really great play on Felkon's part by putting that pressure back onto Khazrak, and equally as good of a play by Optimus Prime by getting a lot of good charges and opportunistically trying to get as much damage as you can into that kind of Lord Hero pocket. And you can see over here in this far back flank, the Ungor Raiders are doing some damage over here to these Doomflayers. They've been completely isolated, and now they've got to use a unit of Razorgore herds, or a Razorgore herd, and Chaos Warhounds jumping onto these Doomflayers here. Now, they are slowed down by poison. We talked about how great these Razorgore herds are going to be against these Doomflayers, so this is an isolated unit that's going to probably get burst down very quickly by all that concerted effort. Coming back to the main fight here, you can see that a lot of shit is going down, all wild here, getting a nice good charge right into that Warlock Engineer, pushing through hot and heavy. He's Pop Scourge, he's going all over the place, pushing in and out of combat. Optimus Prime is doing a great job of not keeping Khazrak into too poor of a concentrated fight. He's pushing in and out of combat without staying around these halberd units or these spearman units for too long. He's doing a really great job there. At the same time, Verminous Valor is being popped on Quick Headtaker, trying to get up in the face of Khazrak. Both of them are doing a really good job of kind of counterplaying one another. Every time that Khazrak kind of comes in for the kill, he uses all of his abilities. In the same time, Felkon is able to trip both Verminous Valor to get onto him, Dwarf Gouger to do some damage to him, Stand Your Ground to mitigate some of the damage, and at the same time, use Trophy Heads to mitigate a lot of the melee attack bonuses he's getting from Scourge and Apocalyptic Visions. So, real great play on both these guys, trying to kind of fence back and forth at one another. It's a very awesome play here. And as you can see, these Doomflayers are getting routed off by the Razorgore herds in the massive pocket of Beastmen over here. And the center battle is really looking majority for the Skaven. You can see that there's really no Beastmen infantry left. You have a nice big heavy unit of 110 Council Guards still in great fighting force. So a lot of really good tools still at Felkon's disposal. Equally though, a lot of great tools still at Optimus Prime's disposal. So a lot of great things could be still happening here. So let's just kind of see how this plays out. Khazrak kind of diving in and out of battle. One big thing to mention about both these armies, let's press tab real quick. You can see that they're going all over the place, right? Got everything around here, everything around here, everything around here. I mean, part of the mechanic of playing Beastmen is dealing with your armies, fleeing, and then bringing them back into the fray. I mean, Skaven have a mechanic built solely around their units fleeing. So being mindful of those two facts when you're playing either one of these forces is very important. You have to have a very good battlefield presence in being able to recall units that are rallying, keeping units that are fleeing off of the fight. I mean, if you're Skaven and you have fast units, you need to get as fast as you can. You need to put as much pressure as you can on these fleeing units so that they don't come back, or they get at least, broken and shattered, just like the Gore herd. You can see here, you've got the Razorgore Chariot, Khazrak against these Doomflayers, and look at this. The Doomflayers are just melting under the concerted effort of Khazrak One Eye. 400 AP damage, well, not total AP, but 400 damage coming out from this bad boys are just smacking the Doomflayers around. Even with Death Frenzy triggered on them, is what Felkon tried to use to keep them in the fight rather than have them kind of flee off. Immune Psychology is very important for those kind of high-value units. You do have some units of Beastmen coming back, and that isolated pocket is now coming to do some serious damage. I mean, Razorgore herds and these Chaos Warhounds are going to be able to really put a lot of threat into this pocket if they can catch them on their heel when they're not braced. Let's see how that kind of plays out. Khazrak at the same time, Optimus Prime is doing a real good job of kind of keeping him in and out, but at the same time harassing very well, getting good charges in, doing little chunks of damage here and there, here and there, here and there. So it's been a really great fight to see Khazrak being isolated this entire time, or at least for the past like 3-4 minutes, and still not succumbing. He's still not kind of staying into any of these concerted fights where he knows he's going to lose. Optimus Prime has really been good about taking these very strategic engagements with him. Ungor Raiders getting some good charges in. Chaos Warhounds with poison jumping right into the fray here. Doomflayers ripping right through, but they're just going to get right caught up with those Razorgores. Again, we talked about how those Razorgores are going to knock them around real hard. And at the same time, you can see how Felkon just says, okay, well, I know that Khazrak's coming for a rear charge. I'm going to use Queek to kind of counter that. He knows that if he gets in too long of a fight between these two, Queek will probably take the upper hand because he'll be able to just trip out so many burst damage abilities. And they're doing a good job of kind of skirting around each other's abilities. You use Stand Your Ground to take in a charge, so we can go right after Khazrak. At the same time, Khazrak pulled right out of that fight. Said, no, I'm not going to engage for too long on that one. We've got some Skaven forces, kind of the tattered forces of some spearmen, some Clan Vulcan tail slashers, as well as those plague monks trying to pursue some stuff, using some Verminous Valor to try and get some speed over towards Khazrak and get this whole pocket moving again. Felkon's done a great job of keeping the Council Guard in range of these two to keep them in range of the 18% physical resistance that's added onto them. That's very, very, very important, keeping and adding to their tankiness. And what was once a very strong, or at least stronger, presence on the battlefield for the Skaven has been dwindled down quite quickly in just one big good charge from the Razor Gores, the Chaos Warhounds, from the Ungor presence. Oh man, there it is again, just being punted across the field there. Quick Head Taker takes that Razor Gore chariot to the face. The Warlock Engineer is in bad shape here, as you can see. Everything's been popped on Khazrak, in addition to trophy heads there, but Deadly Onslaught is allowing him to get so much damage into that Warlock Engineer as he skirts right out of that conflict right there. The Ungor Raiders constantly pouring shots down and into the Vermin Tide here. The Council Guard, they don't have any kind of missile defense. They kind of have to really do whatever they can, trying to lock down Khazrak here as best as possible. He's at probably, what, 15-20% health left. You can see Quick's still in really good shape, but unfortunately, we're not in great shape with our Warlock Engineer. That Mortis Engine effect is really great for anytime anything charges in. And with him fleeing and in bad shape, it's going to be pretty bad here. It's going to mitigate a lot of just little tiny chunking damage that was always being dealt to Khazrak as he charged in. Vulcan Tail Slashers just getting knocked off the battlefield here by Khazrak as he just kind of roves through them. And really it's down to the Council Guard and Quick Head Taker himself, and really 2 units of Ungor Raiders and Khazrak. Majority of this army is in tatters here. Khazrak going to hunt his prey, ensure that the Warlock Engineer gets knocked off of this battlefield 100%, or at least until it's shattered, and there it is, taking the Warlock Engineer with him. Clan Scryer's own Lore of Ruin Master getting just completely bucked wildly by a Razor Gore chariot. A good charge into here, onto these Ungor Raiders. One thing to mention about Ungor Raiders is they do have a good speed at 41. I believe your typical Clan Rat with spears has 42 speed, so Ungor Raiders are pretty quick. Even the Halberd Infantrymen here, the Council Guard, have a good speed at 38. So Ungor Raiders have the ability to kind of low-key kite most things. Let's see, here's the, 42 versus 41. So they can just barely catch them, depending on their distance and what kind of line they've got on them. But, I mean, Felkon has not given this one up. You can see his units of Stormvermin coming back. He's trying to mitigate as much of the Khazrak damage as he can, being able to try and chase up with him with Verminous Valor, using Stand Your Ground to mitigate any of these big charges with his melee defense. But Khazrak is just riding dirty, as they would say. Just all through things. Being able to really kind of choose his engagements has been really huge for Optimus Pine. Not keeping him, as I keep saying, in any kind of concentrated fights that would do a lot of damage to him. This fight is kind of, he's pushed through this heavier pocket. He's pushing now, though, into this Clan Rats with spears and these Storm Vermin to try and free up his Ungor Raiders so they can continue to do damage. We talked about this a lot, about how one of the best ways to use 2 units of archers is to split them into opposite directions so that they can then do damage from in an enfilade onto things. So that's what he's trying to do here. Optimus Pine charging right into these Council Guard, which can do quite a bit of damage, but getting them right out of the fight as fast as possible. Chaos Warhounds with poison, doing a lot of really good poison damage into both of these units, so really mitigating their ability to charge down this unit of Ungor Raiders here. Khazrak coming back in again, looking to do some damage. It's hit with trophy heads again. Doing a real good job here, but Khazrak's leadership is tanking. Like, look at that. It's going down. It goes from all the way up to all the way down so quick. It was at 18, now it's back at 36, so it's all over the place. Both these armies are just in tatters as they try and kind of keep any kind of foothold if they can. Verminous Valor kind of getting popped by a Quick Head Taker to mitigate a charge, but then doubles back on it. Going after these Ungor Raiders, you have some Razor Gores trying to get in there. Razor Gores will do quite a bit of damage to Quick in a prolonged fight, but boom, just gets shattered right there immediately. Look at him, 21 leadership. He's all over the place. Khazrak just can't decide if he's happy or not. I want to focus on that, though, because his leadership is what is massive production here. So damage sustained is his biggest one. Oh, now good punt into Quick Head Taker here. The Council Guard looking to just chase down whatever they can, going right for those Ungor Raiders. And you can see here that these Gore Herds are trying to get a little wrap up onto the Quick to kind of slow him down. Again, we've got Stand Your Ground popped onto him. Ungor Raiders pouring into those Council Guard. They don't have any melee, or I'm sorry, range defense here. They're in poor shape. Down to the wire. It's really just down to these like little tiny scraps of units left here. Council Guard getting picked apart, getting just slowly chunked away. Khazrak getting a good charge into them as well. Verminous Valor? No. Everything is exhausted. I don't think anything's in any kind of good shape here. 678 health left on Khazrak. Verminous Valor getting a good explosion, sending those Ungors back, trying to chase down the last of these Ungor Raiders, mitigate some of the fire that's coming out their way, but they're just getting hit so hard and heavy from every direction. This is talking about that enfilade, where you do have one unit fleeing while the other unit shoots into them, which is really strong and powerful for you. Oof. It is down to the wire. Can he come out on top? Quick head taker being charged left and right by Khazrak One Eye. A duel of the fates. Coming right into it, knocking him over, but then pulling out again. Doesn't want to get hit by that Dwarf Gouger, which was, I thought, popped, but not anymore. Guardian is persistent on him, and I still just kind of hanging out, and that just those 177. This is why an unbreakable unit of Council Guard is so strong in this situation. They're in it to win it to the very last. Oh no! Oh! And Khazrak is starting to flee. He is starting to flee. 326 health. He cannot stay there. I don't know if he's going to be able to rally back from that. One leadership. Holy shit. Oh my god, and he's fleeing off the table. He's fleeing off the table. It is just Queek Headtaker against a Gore Herd now and a unit of Ungor Raiders. And Khazrak is gone. Khazrak has left the fight. It is just Queek Headtaker and this pitiful unit of Ungor Raiders. But who knows, you know, right? Maybe they can do the damage. Verminous Valor being popped on him, trying to get into that damage as fast as possible. Shut down those archers. They're starting to waver. Felkon has really stayed with this to the bitter end. Optimus Prime has been able to pull units out of fleeing and back into engagements, out of fleeing and back into engagements. So it's been a really, really awesome tug of war between these two. You saw that one point at the very, I'd say about, like, this is a 15-minute battle, so probably around the 4, 5, 6-minute mark, where we saw a huge presence of Skaven over there. Lots of Storm Vermin, some Plague Monks, we saw some Doom Flayers, both these, the Lord and Hero combination, and they looked like they were going to be a pretty big Death Star kind of roving through things. But you saw how Optimus Prime was able to pull this pocket back from over here, push back into this unit of the Verminous Tide, and really put a lot of pressure on them from just the first charge. You saw how they shut down the Doom Flayer, they got rid of the Warlock Engineer, they knocked out a unit of the Vulcan Tail Slashers and the Plague Monks. So you just saw how quickly this game went back and forth between each other. And I think with this pursuit of this unit of Ungor Raiders, they're not going to be coming back, and it's going to be a win for Felkon and Queek Headtaker, who brings it down to the last Skaven there. Holy shit. Oh, hooves and rat tails, man. So let's take a look at this post-battle report. As I said, these Razor Gores just, they carried their weight. 116 kills. You can see that this one didn't do as well, but they really did a great job of shutting down the Doom Flayers, which still got good kills. 79 and 63. But one thing to mention, Optimus Prime's army is predominantly quote-unquote chaff, Gores and Ungors, versus Engine here is Felkon, versus Felkon's army, which is more elite. This has got a lot of Storm Vermins in it. It's got the Council Guard, and the Plague Monks. A lot more high-value units than you typically would see in a Skaven army. So 120, 103, 69, 116, 143, 81. That's a lot of high-value kills against the Skaven in this situation. And in turn, looking at the Skaven against the Beastmen, 126, 106, 122, 121, 143, 80, 88, 63, and 79. That's a lot of low value kills. So I think Optimus Prime's build really would have caught out Felkon's if he had had a couple more opportunistic engagements with those Razor Gores and being able to shut down the Doom Flayers maybe a little bit quicker. I think that, which of course is not a fault of Optimus Prime, it was just the way that those Doom Flayers are so capable of moving in and out of combat so quickly. I think that overall, Optimus Prime brought a lot of good answers for a lot of different things you see in the Skaven army. He didn't expect this level of Storm Vermin, or at least I don't think he did, but he dealt with it very well, and he was able to keep a lot of constant pressure on all aspects of Felkon's army. And I think it was just what really ended up losing it for him was the random kind of fleeing of Khazrak One Eye. If Khazrak hadn't fled, I think Queek would have gotten killed, and it would have been an open and shut case for the Beastmen. I thought that portion of Kazrak fleeing was pretty random, and in my head I was like, oh, okay, this is probably going to go for the Beastmen there. So I think that was like that tipping point where, okay, well, yeah, landslide now for the Beastmen. Well, landslide. It was the end of the fight anyway. But guys, thanks so much for watching here today. Felkon does have a Twitch channel. It's going to be linked in the description below. So go ahead on over to Felkon's channel. If you want to see more of his fun, different builds. He got second place in our last Ever Chosen, and if you watched the Ever Chosen Invitational, that last one, it was a real nail-biting finals between Felkon and Loxlon Soothsayer. So you can expect to see quite a bit of fun action on his Twitch channel. Optimus Pine, I do not believe has a channel of any sort. I do know he watches my channel and Turin's channel. So Optimus, if you do see this and you do have a channel, please by all means shout it out in the comments, and I will pin it. But as always, guys, thanks so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.